Hi, and welcome to this. I'm Mary Billiter. I'm with the Wyoming Department of Education. I'm the Perkins 5 Grants Manager. I am filling in for Dr. Ulrich, and today is the Computer Science Huddle for January. And we have two amazing speakers. I'm literally reading off the email today, and we're kicking off 2025 with Dr. Karen Meister-Emerich, and she's going to do the first part of our two-speaker session today. She's going to teach computer science about computer science teaching. Oh my gosh, I'm going to let her explain what she's going to teach today. She's an adjunct faculty member through Walden University, teaching primarily teachers how to teach AI to students. So she's going to share some resources. You can tell it's the end of the day, guys. And then Megan Garnhart will share information on a unit designed by All Star Code. Megan is also the recently former president of WACT, so she's also going to tell us more about what's going on with that and some chat GPT, which I'm so fascinated about that. I keep hearing about that from my kids, my own children, who are always like, Mom. So how she's used it and tested it with her students and collaborated with fellow educators to help students to better leverage AI. So I've given Dr. Meister-Emerich the controls, and then when you're finished, I will volley it over to Megan. So it is all yours.
Thank you. And I have enough stuff I could probably talk for 3 days. So I am going to summarize a lot.
Good. So if you can take like 20 minutes just so
Yeah.
that we can then open it for questions, and then Megan could have the other half of it, that would be ideal.
Yeah, Michelle told me that.
Oh, okay. I figured you knew, but I
Yes,
want to.
thank you. But one of the things is I'm going to show how I use it with my students. And primarily, it's how I use it as a faculty member. I work with students who are working on a doctorate in education. They could be in any field. They could be special ed, math, science, language arts, kind of whatever, principal. So people who are looking for doctorates in education through Walden University. And I've been doing that for about 15 years. So this is something that I've been with for a bit. So let's see, the advanced does not give me, I'm used to seeing when I go to sharing my screen that I get to share my second screen. Let's see why it's not doing that.
Well, I made you co-host. I can't make you host because
No, it's just that usually I can share a portion of my screen. So let me see if I do content. Let me look at no, that does not look like that's going to have. Let's stop
they
it.
shared the content.
I'm just going to share the second screen.
Okay.
So just the basic second screen. So let me find my presentation here. And I'll just share are you getting the second screen? Okay, great. So I want to start by looking at this. This is from about a year ago, and this was an article in the Wall Street Journal. It says, you learn to use AI at work, your job may depend on it. And then just recently in the World Economic Forum jobs report, it said, top skill in demand, AI literacy. They didn't define it, so I'm not sure what they're talking about there. But I want to go back and ask you to remember, back in 1996, the ACT allowed calculators. Handheld calculators had been available since the early 1970s. So it took them over 20 years to decide to allow that. And I often see, in my own university, it's very, very restrictive on what I can teach my students to do with AI and if I should even be teaching them to use AI. So I have to be very careful on what I do and don't do. I remember back when we had calculators. Oh, if you let them use a calculator, they'll never learn how to do math. They won't be able to add. They won't be able to subtract, blah, 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 blah. I look at it that potentially we can teach some higher order skills. And so I often use ChatGPT personally to help me. So let me go down and let me show you a few course examples. I also teach statistics courses. I am a quantitative researcher. My background also includes a master's in statistics. And I don't know how many people in here in the meeting have had more than one statistics course or even had any statistics courses. And I see somebody is in the waiting room and I just admitted them. And so oftentimes that's an early topic in statistics courses. And so I usually have the information. There's the information in the text. We use a computer program called SPSS to calculate things. And I always have the student, I just don't get it. I need one more resource. And so I'll often go to ChatGPT, tell it, ask it to provide me with some information. And then as a follow-up, I'll say, what is this student's particular area? So if they're in special ed, I'll say, can you give me examples in special ed, how they might use this? And so I get examples from ChatGPT. One of the things in my course is advanced linear regression. And one of the topics in a book, this is one of the books. And if you just start looking at that, I have a feeling that if I asked you to read that, I would hear somewhat of groans and or laughter like, yeah, right. So this is what's in the text. This is very, very complex. The reading level of this is probably collegiate level. However, if you think about reading level, if it's a topic that you're familiar with, yeah, you read it at the right grade level. But if it's a topic that you're not familiar with, you're probably going to be at a much lower reading level for the content. So this goes on for several pages and about multicollinearity. This is actual information in my course. So I said, summarize that. Okay, so it gives me a bullet list. Okay, independent variables are highly related. This is the statistics that you use. Here's the value that your cut point. So instead of this, I've got it down to this. So this is how I use ChatGPT to give me a summary that's going to make it easy to read. If you're in Microsoft Word, I don't know how many of you have used the reading level check. So if you're in Word and you go to File Options and you go to Proofing, you can get readability statistics that show up. And then when you are getting your document stats, so after you've done a check, it will tell you the reading scores. So for example, this one had a reading level of 14.4. So I can get my reading level. I can also say, ChatGPT, what's the reading level of this document? I pop the document in, it does the reading level, and it tells me it's upper graduate or graduate level reading. So this is telling me that this is something that I'm going to have to consider when I'm working with my students, that this reading level might be more advanced than they're comfortable with. So in ChatGPT, I say revise to a grade 10 reading level. How to just do it just that quick. And again, it looks like it has this bulleted list. It's going to make it much easier for someone unfamiliar with it to read. Also, I occasionally have students who English is not, for whom English is not their primary language. And so I used an example of converting it to Spanish. So just because they might have a college level reading level or be pretty competent, they may not be able to do very specific work with in the language of English, but may be able to do it if it was translated into their natural language. And I encourage students to do this. And when I did this and did a comparison with ChatGPT and Google Translate, the translations were almost identical. So if you're familiar with using Google Translate, this would be almost comparable. But if I've already got the document that I'm working with in ChatGPT, it's just one more step as I'm already in that program. Writing assistance. Okay, so here's some information that I have, and I need a professional sounding statement. My students are supposed to put their work into an APA format, a professional format for their writing. And so it gives me the terminology leptocurtic and mesocurtic. So it's got those two terms in there, so it's using the professional language in that example. I also have it say, here's a student, she loves to use acronyms. So she's got the MSSD, adopted the CCSM in 2011. At that time, they were using the HMLT. And I said, this is just not readable. It's too many acronyms. And so what will happen is I put this in and I asked for edits from ChatGPT. Now it gave me an edited version and wrote these out. And then it also gave me editing adjustments. Normally what I'll do is I will give these suggestions to the student and let them make the modifications themselves rather than having ChatGPT rewrite it for them. So I encourage them to use this and think about it as a learning process of how can I make my writing better so that they work with it that way. I don't know how many of you have taken an online course, but a lot of the work that you do is in a discussion board. And so there will be a list of requirements, write a post about blah, 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 do this work. And so I had 20 students on their first post in the discussion board, and they're trying to talk about function notation with variables from an article that they're reading. And so some of them are better than others. And so I said, hey, I wonder what ChatGPT would do if I asked it to give me some feedback for a student. And so I copied the requirements for this, and then I copied the student post, and it gave me a lot of this information. Now, I did tweak it a bit as I worked with it. I didn't just take it as it was. I also like to send an end of course message. And what I did is I provided a list of the topics for each week of the course. And I said, write me an end of course message. It wrote this. It said, oh, in weeks 1 through 3, you're building a foundation. Weeks 4 through 6, you're exploring descriptive and inferential statistics. I had very little editing to send this out. It was very well organized, covered everything, looked great. So I want to stop sharing for just a minute and say, that was a quick overview of how I personally use it for a tool for myself. And I thought I'd see if anybody had any questions about some of those things that I did. Yep. Okay, let me share some more. And I went through that very quickly. I agree. I realize that. One of the things, again, remember that I'm teaching statistics. In Excel, I have the quartiles. I know, are you familiar? I hope everyone's familiar with quartiles. This is where you have the list of everybody in the course, has a score, and then you take and divide. If you had 100 scores, you would take the bottom 25, that would be quartile 1. The next one would be quartile 2, and so on. And let's see. People coming in. Okay, sorry. Just checking on the chat, see if I had any questions. And so quartile 2, quartile 3. Okay, so I have the numbers. Now remember that it's going to be 25% of the students, but the score isn't going to be 25. And so I want Excel to enter a 1 if the value is in quarter 1, 2 if it's in quarter 2, and so on. And I'm going to say, how long would it take you? How many could write that formula in less than a minute? I see Megan laughing. I couldn't either. So the Excel formula gave me this. This was the output from, oops, let me get it shared. Sorry. This was the output from, if the quartile thresholds are, you can embed these into the formula. Here's the formula. I can copy that into Excel and I've got it. I'm done. I could say, I need the Python code to accomplish the same thing, and it can pop out that Python code immediately for me. So those are some things that I have done with ChatGPT. Now, another product that I really love using, it's called Adobe AI Assist. And if you have Adobe Acrobat, I don't know if it's a fee to add it on or if you have the paid version of Adobe Acrobat, it might be with that. So let me share that and show you some cool stuff that we can do with that. So here's my article. My article has to be in PDF format. The student said this was the article that they used, and I want to know if they did find a quantitative article, if it did have the correct statistical analysis in it. And so I said, which is the research design used by the authors? And then it tells me the research design. So it spit it out over here. I would love to do this live, but I'm a little nervous about connectivity working. Then I say, why did the authors use a t-test? And it fills me out with that. Then I say, find this, I can find the source in the paper. So along with this, there's a little digit 1. And if I click on that, it pops up to the page and tells me exactly the source. So one of the problems that people had using either Bing or ChatGPT early on is if they wanted it to report information from an article or to review an article, it would hallucinate. It would just make things up. So this AI Assist is actually using the article and is getting the information from that article, and it's showing me where it got that information from the article. So this is a tool that I have been using quite a bit. And then it also will suggest some more possible questions. Now, the downside of this is students could easily have AI write their responses and they're all done. And however, if the article isn't online, it's not retrievable. Another thing I do is I do images. And I don't know how many of you have a PowerPoint presentation and your technique is you need a picture in the presentation. And so you go to Google Images and say, I need an image of, and you steal an image from Google Images. Well, I started using AI generated images and mixed results, but kind of fun things that I get with using images. So crayon is one of my favorites to get some fun images. You'll notice that in the lower corner, it looks like a little orange crayon. And my prompt was, give me a cartoon of a woman manager getting information from a computer. And notice several of these have some kind of weird looking eyes and some extra eyes. Some of them are kind of fun. I kind of like the looks of this one going there. And some of them are just kind of creepy though. I also asked the same thing from Bing, and Bing Image Generator gave me these, same prompt, different type of images. So I generally will go to 2 or 3 different image generators if I want an image and see what I get. Now, you have to check it. I said, oh, I'd love to have this cool image, and I want to have it say, congratulations, my students finished the course. Well, I couldn't get it to spell congratulations correctly. I could get some kind of cool stuff that looked like stat stuff around it, but I couldn't get the word congratulations spelled correctly. And this is something I'm going to try and see if this will work. And let me pull up a screen here. No, I just lost it. This is an image generation. And what I want you to notice, I'm going to see if I can move it over a little ways. This is the reference image. And this is with several different products. And if you look at the last image, so look at this is the dress. Notice that this matches it. Notice that the hemline matches it. And this is not available yet. One of the fun things that they're doing is trying to see what all it can accomplish. This is all animated. It looks just like the real person. It's animated. This is one of those things that I think is pretty amazing as you think about AI being able to do that and get some of those really cool things going on. And then I'm going to show you a couple of things that I am currently playing with in AI. And one of them is called Napkin. And this is something that if you think of when you're in a restaurant and you're chatting with somebody and you say, oh, this would be really cool, and you're sketching it out on a napkin because that's the only paper. So that's kind of the name. And I said, create a graphic to show how average teacher salary, percent of Title I schools, and average class size could be either a resource or a demand related to teacher retention. And it gave me a couple of different images. Now, I generally found that I did not want to use the images, but they gave me an idea of how I could start creating an image. And the other thing I'm using is Notebook LM, which creates an AI podcast. And I entered 3 things. I had a write up. I don't know if you are Cowboy State Daily people, but in Cowboy State Daily, they had an article a couple weeks ago about a baby boomer grandma that drives a Cybertruck. Well, that happened to be about me. And I said, I'm curious about how this podcast thing would work. And so I entered, after I had the Cybertruck for a week, I put in 7 things I learned in 7 days in a Facebook post for my friends. And I put that list in. I put the interview transcript that I did with Cowboy State Daily. And we did a Zoom interview, and I just took the AI generated transcript. And then I took the specs from the Cybertruck website, the Tesla website. It created about a 15-minute podcast using that information with 2 AI voices, a man and a woman talking. And it added a lot of information that I did not have in there, that it was able to almost synthesize the information. So that's one that I'm trying to figure out how I could do a podcast for my students. So that's a rapid overview of the kinds of stuff I use AI for. So any questions? How did I do on my time, Mary?
You're doing good. You saw me pop up, and Karen, I was writing some stuff down, and we will send this out. It is really awesome. And that was a really good feature. I did see that. So we'll have you come back another time too. And guys, we will be sending this out. Sarah, I don't have your last name. If you could put it in the chat so I can get you down for attendance. And Karen will leave her information in the chat so that if you need any contact stuff from her. And now I'm going to volley it over to Megan. Let me make Megan co-host. Yes. And there, thank you. And I'm going to pass it on over to Megan.
Thank you. I was taking notes also. I love getting new AI resources as frequently as I can. So I was so excited about that. Thank you. So I am going to share actually something that is very much not my own, but I got what I'm going to share from a conference, the CSTA National Conference this past summer in Vegas. And this is created by All Star Code. I decided to bring it back and use it with my own class. I have since used it with 2 classes and of my own, and then it had gone so well, and I felt like it was so beneficial that I've modified it several times to teach just like quick mini lessons to other classes as well. So I wanted to go ahead and share it today. It is specifically about leveraging ChatGPT with students within the classroom. I personally am a ChatGPT fan myself. I'm going to share my screen with you. Well, I would like to. Let's see if it'll let me. Hold on, I forget my school computer never lets me. So if it won't let me, I will give you all. Here we go. Yay, is it gonna let me? Later. Okay, let's see. Let me try again. Sorry, guys. It never wants to let me share stuff. Yay, it did. Okay, perfect. I'm going to send this link to you all as well. If you are someone like myself, I need to like physically touch these things as they are being taught to me. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Although, there we go. Sorry. Should have done that before I popped it in here. Here's your link. There you go. So I'm just going to kind of give you the basics of this is really meant to be an entire kind of unit. I'm going to say it's really well done in my opinion. Like I said, have pulled some things out of here and done it as mini units, etc. And I feel like you can certainly do the same. So this first link takes you to the All-Star Code designed GitHub that they created specifically for this. ChatGPT is my personal favorite that I have used so far. I shouldn't say favorite, but it's definitely my most used. It is certainly just because it was like the first one that I latched onto when this was really breaking out onto the scene. And so it's just what I'm most familiar with. It also is what my students are most familiar with. And wonderfully, after going to this was also what my district decided to unblock for my students this year. So that worked out nicely for me. So this is what that GitHub link looks like. This should be working for you guys. I hope it is. If not, someone just like holler at me. Like literally, you can holler at me. So the way they have this broken out is it's really well done, in my opinion. They have all of this ready for you. The guides that you will see as you go through this and each of these kind of units, they have theirs set up so that you can essentially do this like in one fail swoop. I have never done it that way. That seems pretty cumbersome and intense to me. This is definitely something we've spent a week on as like a mini unit within my classes. And the whole idea here is to show students that like, yes, this is a tool and yes, it is a fantastic tool, but it is not something that we are meaning to offload our thinking onto. It's supposed to benefit us and help with our thinking that's already taking place as a tool. And so it takes them through what it can do, what it can't do, how we are enhance our learning and understanding. What I really love is as you click into these, you can make a copy of them yourself, make them your own, share them out however you like. But it goes through here and it's very specific for instructors as well. It was made with instructors in mind, tells you what slide to go to, where to prompt students, etc. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit how each of these, and I'm sure you are clicking through these if you're anything like me. So please feel free to continue to do that. So the first part of this is just like the AI conversation starters. And it really goes into just discussions involving like, where is AI existing in our daily lives already that perhaps we're not thinking about it? I really like this because they included audio recordings of a gentleman explaining, the gentleman who actually presented to us, explaining how his day-to-day life goes. And then he asks you to think about how many times did you hear AI in my day? And it was really interesting to hear him and how many times all of us in a room of just computer science teachers did not catch on to all the AI pieces. And so that's really fun to do with students and to get them talking. The slides that are built into this and ready to go have really good, in my opinion, conversation starters there, the ways we can communicate with them. And then it starts to have that conversation of what is AI in our day-to-day lives? What are things that you're not thinking about? Because oftentimes they're just thinking about that ChatGPT or how I'm going to use it to benefit me on my homework. Let's be honest, I'm a high school teacher. So if that gives you a background on that piece. Then it goes into what ChatGPT can do for us. I really like the way they rolled this out because it goes into the basics of how AI works first for our students, which I really think is one of the missing pieces. What I found is it came onto the scene so quickly. And in my realm and what I've seen a lot of, and not to speak for others, but what I've seen a lot of is kind of this like, there's really two ends of it. Like you either built up like this solid wall and I did not want to have AI involved at all. And I don't want it in my classroom and I don't want it in education. Or I'm going to accept it. I'm going to build with it and I'm going to go alongside of it. And I was certainly on that end in my career, but I did realize that that didn't necessarily mean I was teaching them how to leverage it as much as I was just okay with them using the tool. And so I really like that this starts to go into what are the basics of how it works? Why is it working the way it does? In addition to then taking them further into now introducing them into these next steps. And you can see here these exploration guides that are included. And I will pop one of these up for you because I just really like them. So what can it do? It takes you through this exploration guides, and it has them prompt, like, I want you to prompt exactly this. And they've really refined these and been really purposeful with what they choose. Really refined all of these pieces so they start to see how it's responding to them. Then I love this next part was my personal, like, this is where I was like, I have to take this back to students because, again, they often get into, in my opinion, my students get into this realm of like, this is for the purpose of homework or using it to rewrite my entire essay, all of those pieces. And what I love is for them to see this. This is a tool to enhance our lives, not to offload our thinking. And so it has them go through this task where they use ChatGPT to help them with a goal that they have, and help them to build a plan to meet their goal. So I did this with all of my classes that I've done it. It has been really spectacular to watch them see the power in this tool beyond the way that I think a lot of our students have used it. Again, leveraging AI versus just, I'm okay with you using it. I think that's a very big difference. And so I really enjoyed getting to show them that of, hey, you can actually use this as a really great tool. And the goal setting could be anything. I talked to them about, and it's in the slides, setting up a workout plan for yourself. You know, are you wanting to, teenage boys are always wanting to, you know, get really buff or go from not running at all to running a half marathon. All of those pieces can be done in here. I have some students who are like, I really don't think I have any goals right now. And I'm like, that as a teenager is a little bit concerning for me. So perhaps you use ChatGPT to help you think about what are some goals that as a teenager you should be looking towards and how you would start to paint that pathway for yourself. I've even had a couple of students do that where it's like, well, I'm not sure what goals I should have at this point. Can you help point me along in some directions? And that's been really great as well. It takes them through. This was one that was really cool for me. Again, using it as a tool to support like the work you're already doing, the amazing things you're already doing. So think of like a theme for a website. You are building the website. Have it give you a color scheme for your website. It takes you to this area. This was something that was really exciting for me, something I'd never thought of even using ChatGPT for. I do a lot of work in the side of my life where I'm doing graphic design work, and I hate trying to figure out what font I should be using. It is like the bane of my existence. And after we did this with this lesson, I have used that every single time, and it is such a time saver for me. So really cool for them to get to experience that, and again, see that this is like not offloading our thinking, but enhancing it. Now, this next piece, I will tell you, this to me is the absolute game changer. So this is actually what I have taken in as a mini lesson to other classrooms. So I have a belief that if I am going to go into another classroom, they've asked me to come show something cool with their students using AI, but they're not super comfortable. I'm happy to do that, but I always tell them, I do not feel comfortable walking into a class that I cannot guarantee I'm ever going to have a student from your class in mine again, and just like give them access to this really incredibly powerful tool with no background. So I need you to give me at least 20 minutes to give them background, safety, AI information first, and then I will do the lesson you're asking. So this is what I pulled directly to do that. And I do think this is, again, where we start to see, and I've seen my students, this is an absolute game changer. And to watch their faces is amazing. It goes into what ChatGPT can't do and what it is not capable of doing. Now, what's really cool about this All-Star Code GitHub platform, so this itself, because it is on GitHub and they're hosting it, this has already changed what the slides look like and some of the activities since I was there in July in Vegas. So they've already updated some things based on updates that AI has gone through and ChatGPT has gone through. They've updated the lessons already, which I think is really spectacular that All Star Code is doing that. I would tell you, though, there was one particular question that I really loved, and I'm super glad that I had already made my own copy of the slides. So I would recommend to you as you're going through this, one, be checking back, but do make your own copy of the slides if you like them. Make them your own, adapt them. They're putting this resource out here. So obviously they're wanting folks to use them and make them their own. But I will tell you that I think it's very amazing that they're updating them constantly with the movement of AI, but I was happy I had made my own copies. So one of the things that it takes students through with what AI can't do, and I'm going to flip back over here because I have some screenshots of it. So I shared with you this. This was the original set of slides that they had for this part, and this actually has changed quite a bit. So you're more than welcome to make a copy of mine as well if you like some of the questions on there. I certainly did. I'm going to click this really quick and see if this is a question for me. No, okay, perfect. So the first thing that it had us do was ask ChatGPT very specifically who were the 3 founders of All Star Code. And it actually has I have the students do this with me. So I just tell them, I want you to prompt AI this exact line. And it asks them to prompt, do this, do exactly this. So the interesting part about this, and what it's so good to let students see after they've already gone through this and it explains how does AI work and what is AI doing, then they get to see this. And this is so imperative, I think, for them to truly understand how to leverage this. As it comes through and it pops something similar up to this up every time. And then it says, so Christina Lewis is the only founder of All Star Code, but you can see that it gave 3 founders. When prompted with an incorrect assumption that All Star Code had 3 founders, ChatGPT provides the names of 2 other people who aren't even affiliated with All Star Code, because it believes, being predictive in nature, that it needs to fill those in and give those to you. So it made up names of people who aren't even involved. This is, I think, very important for our students to understand if they're leveraging AI, again, rather than just like, hey, I'm okay with you using this tool, versus now I'm going to teach you how to leverage this tool effectively. Understanding that how we prompt AI is very important. And you cannot just be using this for every assignment in your classes, because it sometimes just does crazy things. It believed that you wanted 3 founders, and so it was going to give you those regardless of whether they existed or not. Christina Lewis is the only founder of All Star Code. We know this. She was there telling us that. The next part of this, and this is one that is no longer in those slides that they have now, and so I'm really grateful that I had the original, because I like how it breaks this out. And I love doing this one with students. So this exact question, what was the first newspaper article written about baseball, and cite your source? I love this because this is, I believe, what we're seeing a lot with our students when it comes to like that English assignments in my grade band, or even a little bit younger, where they're using it and they're like, yep, I'm just going to let it give me my sources. I'm going to let it give me my information. I'm good to go. Rather than truly leveraging it and understanding its power and its purpose, now we're getting into some of the heart of that and teaching it. So what's great about giving them this and giving that exact prompt is I have never had it where every kid in the room has even similar to the same answer. The closest we've ever gotten to the same answer is we'll have the same year occasionally, or we'll have the same month occasionally. Like, you get some of those. But aside from that, they have all different answers in the room to start. So right off the bat, we already have students who are like, wait a second, why is that happening? Like, this should be a pretty straightforward answer. And so because we've gone into the conversation already in prior, how AI and ChatGPT are working, AI overall, and then ChatGPT, they start to have those conversations. Additionally, then, in the slides that you'll see that go with this, if you have them open, you can see it. I want to say right here on mine, but it shows them why. And it talks about, like, is AI hallucinating or is it lying to us? And it explains that it's really not, but why this happens. And what's so interesting then is this is also in those slides that I had originally, is it explains like why what it is showing us here, and that like the New York Morning News was a real newspaper, but this article isn't real that it's citing for us, and all of these other things. So the name of a famous drawing of a baseball game, but the baseball game was actually in 1966 and not a newspaper article at all. And then it shows like this is a real website with historical information about baseball, but the page doesn't even exist. The link is fake, and Baseball's First Inning is a 2011 book by a different author. So it shows them, and they really like the shock factor of this is what I really love, is these students are like, oh my gosh. You can almost see the students in the room too who are like, how many of my assignments did I do this on? Like they start to question themselves a bit. So this is what I really love. And then it goes into an explanation of it's not lying. It's not really telling you a lie on purpose. Again, AI isn't a person. That's good to reiterate. And for groups of students that I'm going to just like guest teach in, I love them to see this and start to look at, there is a time and a place for AI where it's very beneficial and you can absolutely leverage this power. Again, that we can let it enhance our learning or benefit our learning, or flat out let it teach us things. Sometimes if you're letting it teach you how to get to your goal. However, you have to be purposeful in what that is and what you're choosing to have it show you. The other thing that it goes into, if you have those slides open, if not, I can pull them up as well now, is it goes into their slides do now as well. The updated ones do as well, and so do the old ones. It looks into why like math doesn't work well in AI, which I really love. Again, something our students are wanting to use it for, but they need to understand why this can be a problem. And so it shows them this like predictive nature and how it works at that level. But then if you keep going into a higher mathematical level, why you begin to not be able to leverage it as well, and why it's no longer a great tool, at least on ChatGPT side, right? There are some AI tools out there that are fantastic for that, but again, knowing our tools is a benefit in this case as well. So with those pieces, using this unit, and this again, kind of a mini unit, then it goes into how that last chunk after what it can't do. That is personally, that's like my favorite part. And I do share that even as just like a standalone. I've been really successful with using just these couple prompts and letting students see and having just a quick conversation with them of why that happens and where AI is really effective and where it's not, and how we leverage that and then use it as a tool. Has been really successful. I've taken it into a business classroom a couple weeks ago and looked with them on how wonderful it can be in building a business plan. If you have an idea of what you want your business to be, but you really have no idea other than that, how incredible it is that we live in a time where you can have an entire business plan working with you through ChatGPT, and you work side by side with it, and you can have it refine certain parts or change this or change this. And how incredible that is, because I hate to think of a time where someone might have had the greatest invention of all time and didn't know what to do for the next steps of that entrepreneurial process. Now that shouldn't be a concern because this will help them. And so that's the lesson, but I do think it's so good to, with that type of conversation, to show them something like this. That's a great leverage of that power. Here's where, though, you maybe should not be using that. And then it just goes into enhancing learning with ChatGPT and further going into that idea of how do you learn using ChatGPT. This actually takes them into, I've got to refamiliarize myself. Oh, so this one's really cool. So this actually takes them into a full coding project. And it's actually supposed to be something that they are very unfamiliar with. So it's meant to be pretty high level for them not to maybe be completely familiar with. So beware who you're handing it to. I have a class of upper level students who for sure would not need the AI to do this. However, it still would make it much more efficient for them. And that is a great use of it. it also lends to really great conversations about how beneficial is AI if you have no background knowledge on something and you don't actually know if it's presenting you with accurate and useful information, such as the baseball problem, if you have no background knowledge. So this is that last little step in there. And then it does go ahead and give you a wrap up. There's additional games in here. What I do like as well is they give like a really nice flyer that you can print out with the do's and don'ts. And then it has multiple additional resources and places that you can go if you want to take this further. My students have loved this. I've done this, like I said, 3 times with 3 different groups. I did it with an intro to computing group. So my very most introductory, some of them have a hard time logging into their Gmail accounts. That level of course, and I've also then taken the time out because it went so well to do this with my AP computer science students and my upper level cybersecurity students. And then, like I said, pulled and taken it into classes where I'm guest teaching. And in all of them, the response has really collectively been a bit of shock and like that awe factor of we had no idea, because it truly was something that they've dove into using perhaps, or some of them haven't tried using at all. And collectively as their educators, I think I can say collectively in our building, it was something that we were either not letting them use or were going to, but there wasn't instruction on using the AI tools. And I do think that that is a very big difference. Allowing it and teaching it are not the same thing. And this to me is just such a great starting place because everything is there. The prompts are available of how you can prompt it to give you an incorrect answer. That's helpful. And I felt like I learned a ton with them as we were going through this the first time. It's short, it's quick. I feel like it can go into almost any course you have and be adjusted quick and easy. And I think that's really powerful as well, which is why I've just been so excited. And I will tell you, to jump back on here in the last couple of days to prepare for this and see that they're already changing has been really exciting for me as well, because that leads me to believe they're going to continue to do so, which I think is very powerful considering ChatGPT has changed so much even since July, and so have all of the other AI resources. So I know that's so fast. I'm feeling for Karen that is so fast. So if anyone has questions, I would love to answer them about this. But otherwise, that is the tool that I wanted to share with you in just this mini unit of how to help students maybe start leveraging AI.
I have been taking copious notes, even though I know that we we are recording this and we'll send it out. Does anybody have any questions? This was phenomenal. This is so exciting. Any questions for either of our presenters?
I just want to say, Megan, I love the fact that you're showing them where it doesn't work. I always try to have some kind of an example when I do stuff too, that, hey, it doesn't work when you do this. And so, and
Yes.
especially the citations, because that's where my students always want to use it to get that. And that's what I like about the AI assist with Adobe.
Yes, Karen, thanks for saying that, because I think this was where I was really like, you were saying like to show them where it doesn't work is always a little bit tricky, right? Like I want to show you where it doesn't work, but how am I gonna make sure that I prompt it to that it that it doesn't work, right? And it was funny because I have my ChatGPT is constantly like learning me, right? Like it learns you as you go. So the last time I went to do this with a class, it gave me the correct answer on All-Star Code and who was the founder. And I was like, dang it, you've caught on. You've caught on that I'm setting you up for failure here. And so I had to like tell it to forget me for some stuff. But I think that's important for them to recognize too. So thank you for saying that. I think that's a really great piece, especially because I don't think they have any idea. I think they're like, that's great, it can do everything. And I'm like, it can't.
Well, and I think my students try to use it, and then that's how I catch them too, is I just do a quick check on the article and, oh, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, that doesn't exist. We used to, in our classroom, we've always called it, so I call something that's like an absolute disaster, a soup sandwich. And I'm like, dude, that is a soup sandwich for sure coming from your AI, but I wasn't able yet to verbalize to them how how they got to their soup sandwich. And so I felt like this was a really great stepping stone to be like, okay, so this is why you have a soup sandwich. You can't actually, you can prompt it that way, but it can't help you that way. So um, I agree. And I thought it was really great. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, and I thought of one more thing. I'm not sure how many of you are, and I put in some links in the chat, but Conmigo has an AI tutor, and I'm not sure how many of you might be familiar with that. And I just put that into the thing. There's a demo that Sal Khan does and shows how to use it. So I don't know if you want to just copy some of that from the chat, Mary, and send that out to people too. But Conmigo, it's pretty amazing that it could do, it's teaching the student, and I think it could be a very powerful AI tutor for students. And so I'm trying to get people to look at it.
I really love that idea. I just heard about this actually. First of all, Sal Khan, shout out to him. I don't know, he'll never see me shouting him out, but I just do every chance I get. What a superstar. But I love that idea because one of the conversations we had a lot in our district was getting at least one AI resource unblocked. We had them all blocked until about 2 months ago. And the conversation was that is I was like, they can learn here though. Like there can be some, like, let's think about our students who are going home and don't have someone to help or don't have the resource that they need. And if we're blocking it on the only tool they have available, yikes, because I think Sal Khan's going to make that much easier to be able to maybe fight that fight of, no, this can be such a good learning tool.
Well, and it's really interesting because in the demo, he has say, well, just give me the answer, and it won't give the answer.
Yay, I love that.
So check out the video or demo. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
If there's not any other questions, anybody, any last questions? If not, I will give everybody about 5 minutes back of their day.
It's always nice.
Ladies,
The gift of time, I tell
I know.
you.
Hey, ladies, thank you for joining us and everybody else. This will be sent out tomorrow. One of our other team members does that for us, but thank you so much. This was fascinating. This is such neat. Oh, thank you, Sarah. Sarah, what's your last name? I didn't get it. So if you could put it in the chat, I can get you credit for this with Dr. Ulrich, and put that in the chat, and then I will end it for everybody. But the rest of you guys can go. Thank you so much. We'll send this out tomorrow. Take care,
Thanks
guys.
so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Sarah.